Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. Talking about the Internet of Things, where it's everywhere around us, ubiquitous, and it's every part of society. As we move through the 21st century, we're going to be doing the same thing as far as taking care of planet Earth and making sure that we're actually cleaning things and improving the environment instead of degrading the environment. And we have a company that's going to be with us, Pangea. They're introducing a technology. It's been around over 2 decades, proven across the United States, but very few people have heard of it, called Flozone. And we have Mickey Walsh. Mickey Walsh is the co-founder and chief operations officer of the Pangea Filtration Technology, LLC. And Mickey, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you, Dr. Hancock, for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you. We're talking about the Internet of Things that's absolutely everywhere around us, but you're trying through Pangea to make sure that we're actually addressing the environment where we're constantly cleaning things, reducing the amount of water, the energy, release of greenhouse gases, and these chemical clouds. How do you think you're going to achieve that, just like the Internet of Things?
Well, I mean, there's a number of different measures that have been taken nationally, internationally on water conservation issues and energy conservation issues, carbon capturing, et cetera. And the great thing about the Flozone technology is it directly addresses each one of those items through one of the nation's largest water users, which is cooling towers. And so by addressing one of the largest uses of cooling towers, of course, next to irrigation systems for agriculture, cooling towers are the next largest user of water. And so by addressing that large user of water, we hope that we can reduce the water consumption and save a little bit of energy. And hopefully you've got a technology that will pay for itself, which will make it very attractive to commercial interests.
Yeah, and this is the whole thing. We're looking here again about this connectivity as far as the Internet of Things. But really, this is an overlay as far as what you're doing with Pangea. Taking this image that we have here, Mickey, how does Pangea mimic what we're looking at and we're actually achieving through the Internet of Things, but doing it so that we're reducing the use of energy, the use of water, greenhouse gas emissions, these chemical clouds, and we're actually cleansing the environment, making cleaner out there instead of worse.
Well, I mean, the great thing about AI and the dawn of and the introduction of artificial intelligence utilizing the Internet of Things, you have many, many different components that are drawn together, within a central operating system, such as a building management system. And all of the technologies that Pangea Filtration has all tie into those building management systems, and they're all interrelated. And so when they're working together, they have a much more synergistic effect than working independently. So it's a 1-2 punch. If you're looking for water conservation, energy conservation, if you're operating optimally all the time in direct association with the conditions as they exist. I mean, after all, in nature, the weather doesn't stay the same all the time, does it? So consequently, If the weather doesn't stay the same, neither does the conditions that the building has to respond to stay the same.
Yeah.
So automation of that is extremely important. And especially when you're putting off a whole lot of steam and gas and everything else, you're trying to get a good control of that and make sure that it's doing it in a way that will benefit everything.
I think you bring up a really good point. Most people look at their buildings as being static in many different ways, and that's because you're there, the air's coming in, whether it's clean, dirty, or otherwise, the water the same way. Well, we think they're more static, and everything is absolutely stable. What you're saying is, Mickey, is that there's ebbs and flow throughout these buildings, and you talked about the cooling towers, but also these huge data processing centers, and really everything around us is a living organization and living organism. So really everything is changing on a minute by minute basis. So looking at the 24/7, 365 monitoring, why is that even more critical now as we are moving towards 2038 and 9 billion people on planet Earth?
Well, in the 40 years that I've done industrial water management, I can tell you that the one thing that people always lacked was ability to control their system. And as technology has gotten better, I mean, even, I can remember 15 years ago, we were introducing solid state control systems into hospitals and other commercial buildings. And without that level of control, you either have to have somebody that sits in the system and watches it and tests it all the time, or you have to put a very robust automation system on. Traditionally, those were very expensive, but automation systems have come down in price greatly. And that allows us to be able to get those levels of control that we want instantaneously. But then with the instantaneous control of the system, it also helps to have instantaneous reporting. So that way an operator or a manager can take a look at a system. Not only can he see the condition the system's operating in right now, but he can see real time, like you do on your car today. You can see what your gas mileage is on your car while you're driving. So you can change your driving habits to increase your fuel economy. And the same thing is true in buildings. If you have an ability to have good control and you can see what's going on in real time, you have the ability to make changes to adjust it so it operates more efficiently.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, looking at the Flozone, we did show this and talked about this a little bit earlier, but how does this do all of these things, Mickey, that you were talking about as far as reducing the cost, increasing the efficiency, but also lengthening the lifespan of all the technologies, but also the building themselves? So how does Flozone and its very innovative technologies really expand the life cycle of not only the building itself, but actually the humans and all living beings that are around and in these buildings?
Well, I think for me, the great thing about Flowzone is that they've taken a new technology and integrated it with traditional approaches to water management and water treatment. And this combination is essential to successful treatment program, especially when dealing with new technologies. And introducing those new technologies and understanding them has been part of what I've done for a number of years. I can say this: the cooling tower, the IMS system in the Flowzone package has ozone and radio frequency control for the cooling tower water, which takes care of scale, bacteria, corrosion, and water conservation in a cooling tower. The PFS system takes care of filtration on the closed loop. Oftentimes, a very disregarded piece of equipment within a central plant is the closed loop system. And oftentimes, it's also one of the most areas of the greatest efficiency recovery for energy, because that's where heat transfer occurs from the building to the refrigeration equipment. And the last piece is that they have a technology that they use on the air handling units that allows, it's a UV technology that allows for varying wavelengths of UV to keep the coils clean and to sterilize or disinfect the air as it comes into the building or as it's reused. So all of those pieces tie in together through a system they call eSentinel, and that eSentinel piece provides the reporting back to the building owner or manager.
Now, looking at this, and I'm going to leave this map up here, but I want to go back to the piece of equipment right now. So, actually, what you're just telling us, Mickey, is that actually you're drawing in air from the outside, which actually may be much dirtier and more harmful to the beings inside than what you're actually then going to exhaust out into the environment. Is that a good summary of what you just told us?
Well, I mean, there are filtration systems to remove a number of different contaminants from outside air. The Flozone system, they call it zone air, is on there to eliminate the biological component associated with incoming air. And that biological component, when it gets in contact with wet coils, has an opportunity to grow. And so by keeping that down, you create a healthier environment on the inside of the building. So in answer to your question, is the air going out of the building cleaner than the air coming into the building? Absolutely.
Okay, and that's what we wanted to know. Looking at this map going across the United States, we're looking at different states, very different climatic zones, and very different impacts from the surrounding environment because it's wetter, it's drier, higher humidity, lower humidity, many different variables. How do you have a piece of equipment like this that handles all of the variables that we're seeing across the entire United States?
Well, as we were talking about earlier, control is the key component to any dynamic system, such as goes on a cooling tower or an HVAC system, is very important, especially in data center management as well. But as you move through the various zones of cooling within that map that you see there, wet bulb temperatures and everything else play a vital role in how do you select the proper equipment and how you control the system. And equal to that, the water, the condition of the water coming into those systems is vitally important as well. So it's especially desirable to understand a lot of the chemistry that's in the water so that we make sure that we get the best corrosion rates that we can get, the best biological control, and good water conservation.
Now, DCSEU, this is bringing Flozone into Washington, D.C. One, why is it so important to bring Flozone into what is already recognized globally as the world's first lead platinum city? And then DCSEU, how does it play a role of actually advancing beyond just the platinum designation, but actually enhance the platinum designation for Washington, D.C.? And we have about 30 seconds to answer that question.
Well, I think that, I mean, of course, it's a longer answer, but the nice thing about DCSEU, envisioned by the city and promoted by the city as a way to bring new technologies into a building without having a huge capital cost outlay and getting that technology working immediately, providing those savings back right away, where otherwise they might not have been able to afford it. So, very applaud their efforts.
Yeah, and DC is District of Columbia Sustainable Energy Utility, and a very excellent organization, has been on EmeraldPlanet TV. And this is going to this 24/7, 365 monitoring that you were talking about, Mickey. We're going to go out on this. How is this really becoming the standard of the industry? And we, again, about 30 seconds to answer this. As far as monitoring all these huge complex systems in densely built urban areas as well as very rural areas.
Of course, with these monitoring systems, you have a central point that all the data comes into from a variety of these sources. And the way that the operators of these systems they have algorithms built in that trigger certain high points, low points, alarm systems, et cetera, and they prioritize them. So the minute they see something wrong, they can either make a change or alert an operator to the upset condition. And that's where it's really vital.
Fantastic. Mickey Walsh, thank you very much as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.